we want to remind every parent, caregiver, and educator that's listening, children with ADHD are bright, creative, and full of potential, but they also face challenges that can sometimes feel overwhelming. Too often, these struggles can place them at higher risk for depression and even thoughts and completion of suicide. Talking openly, listening without judgment, and reaching out for support can make all the difference. If you are worried about your child, know that you are not alone. There are resources, professionals, and communities ready to walk with you. During Suicide Prevention Month, let's commit to kindness, connection, and awareness. Every child deserves to feel seen, valued, and loved for exactly who they are. Together, we can build a world where children with ADHD not only survive, but truly thrive.
Hello everyone, I'm Tony.
And I'm Casey.
And welcome to Anthony's Way, the Road to Kindness, and our YouTube and our podcast, The Way Forward, a Kindness Mission. We want to welcome especially those joining us for the first time. It's great to have you with us. We created Anthony's Way, the Road to Kindness, in memory of our dear son, Anthony, with one mission in mind: to help kids with ADHD thrive. Through our expert care and compassionate guidance, we've developed a supportive roadmap for parents, one that helps them better understand both ADHD and their child. With our YouTube channel and our podcast, we bring expert voices and practical insights to families so they can navigate the ADHD journey with clarity, confidence, and kindness. Now, before we begin today's episode, we want to let you know that we'll be covering a very important and difficult topic for us. One that we never really thought that we'd be sharing, but it pertains to suicide and its impact on ADHD. So if you feel at any point that this episode and the conversation is too heavy for you, please take care of yourself. And if someone you love is struggling with thoughts of suicide, you're not alone. Help is available in the United States. You can dial or text 988 to connect to a suicide and crisis lifeline right away. Now, September is Suicide Prevention Awareness Month. That's why we're doing this month. That's what we're doing this month. I'm going to bring you some expert people to talk to and some very serious discussion. Now, before we begin the episode and really dig in, we want to share a video that I did back in February. February is Anthony's birthday, and we want to share a short video with you, and then we'll continue with the episode. Hello, everyone. Today, I want to take a moment to share something deeply personal with you. As many of you know, we lost our incredible son, Anthony. His kindness, his energy, and his love continue to inspire us every single day. On February 13th, he would have been 27. We miss him every day. And that's why we made a vow when he passed that we would help families and kids, because we did not want them to feel the pain we felt and still feel today. That's why we started Anthony's Way, the Road to Kindness, to help kids like Anthony, kids with ADHD, kids with learning challenges, and to help parents that do not know where to turn or who to reach out to for support. It was when we decided to create Anthony's nonprofit that we started searching for some information and statistics. As we started digging through the piles of information, we found statistics that made our hearts hurt even more. There are over 7 million kids in the United States that have ADHD. And the sad part is 30% of these kids are at a higher risk of attempting or dying by suicide. And more recently, a New York Times article stated people with ADHD are likely to die significantly earlier than their peers. Stop and think about these statistics for a minute. Okay, now this is not going to be a long podcast, but we feel it's very personal to us. And we never really thought that we'd be talking about suicide and ADHD. We never put the two together.
Right. And when we first started the nonprofit, the focus is, well, the focus always has been, but our focus was on the positives and helping kids with ADHD and not focusing on suicide, because that's not our message. And it still isn't our message, but it is a very important topic and one that obviously affected our lives profoundly.
And we're here because, at 62 years of age, we never thought we'd be doing create a nonprofit. We knew we'd be giving back, but we really, this is a different kind of giving back for us. We're giving back because we lost our son, and we feel that it's so important. We don't want anyone else to feel the pain we felt from losing Anthony. Right. And so we have a deep desire to help as many people as we can. So, but the suicide rates are something that can't be avoided or not discussed, because today they remain a leading cause of death for adolescents from 13 to 19 in the United States. It's really a major cause. In 2023, 49,000 suicide and deaths of all ages occurred. Now, I want you to think back to the stats I gave you regarding 30% of kids that have ADHD either attempt or die by suicide. And when you look at the numbers, there's 7 million kids, 30%, 2.1 million kids have a risk of attempting or dying by suicide. That number, we have to do something with that. And that's why we're here, and that's why the experts that we bring to share with you are here too, because they have a deep desire to help families and help children, teenagers, and adults, because this also pertains to adults. So, the sad part is that, and the stats tell us again, that 1 in 5 school students reported seriously considering suicide, and that was done in 2023. Now that's a sad number, because 1 in 5, and especially, the other challenge here is that a lot of this pertains to young girls, and they're at an elevated risk. So at some point we're going to bring a discussion around young girls and suicide, and also young girls and ADHD, because we have to talk about that. That goes in with this topic. But young girls, they become isolated, and they go into themselves, and they become depressed, and they really don't know where to turn. And people don't see that. They think it's just that part of the age. They're just quiet or reserved. But we have to be aware of those, and we're going to talk a lot about some of the areas that we need to consider. So, at this point, Cassie's going to walk you through a article that's on ADHD and youth suicide, and is there a link? And you're going to clearly see that there is a link. And how we lost Anthony was because of impulsiveness. His impulsiveness, that was the one area that we could never get a handle on, and he couldn't get a handle on. We need to teach these kids to pause and take a step back and think. And if they do that, chances are, like if there's a little whisper in there that, mom or dad, what would you do in this situation? They're going to back up and hopefully not either attempt it. So at the end of the day, we really need to help our kids with that. So Cassi, why don't you walk everybody through this article? And I think it's really important. You'll see the link.
So the article that I'm referencing is nationwidechildren's.org. It's Nationwide Children's Hospital, I believe. But that's where I'm taking this information from. There are a lot of good resources out there that you can read. This one just kind of put everything together, so that's why we picked this one. Yeah. So teachers and parents often focus heavily on managing the behavioral and academic challenges experienced by youth with ADHD, while paying far less attention to the emotional and social effects ADHD can have. Unfortunately, children with ADHD are at an increased risk of experiencing depression and suicidal thoughts or behaviors throughout their lifetimes. So how does ADHD increase the risk of suicide among youth? While the mechanisms through which ADHD increases the risk of suicide are not fully understood, here is what is known about how ADHD may increase risk for youth suicide. Number one, youth with ADHD are at an increased risk of developing depression and anxiety symptoms during the adolescent years, which may increase the likelihood of having suicidal thoughts, suicidal behaviors, and self-harm. girls with ADHD seem to be more vulnerable to developing depression, anxiety, and self-harm behaviors compared to boys with ADHD.
Yeah, here's one, like boys, and we'll probably chat a little bit more about this, but boys are more apt to take greater risks, okay? More apt to do things that might put them at a greater risk. So I think that's partly where this article leads towards, and why girls go into may experience more depression and anxiety and more self-harm behaviors than boys.
Right. Number 2, youth with ADHD are at an increased risk of suicide due to higher levels of impulsivity, which is a prominent symptom of ADHD. Impulsivity can drive ADHD youth to move rapidly from thoughts about suicide to suicidal behaviors during times of distress.
Yeah. And this is tough because this is an area that's close to home for us. And every time we talk about ADHD, we talk about impulsiveness, because people forget that impulsiveness is tied to ADHD. Kids, again, they're just not thinking through the situation and don't think about the outcome and who's gonna be impacted. So it's a serious consideration here, and serious something that we need to think about.
Number 3.
Yes.
Youth with ADHD often have difficulties paying attention to social cues and following instructions, which can contribute to academic and social struggles. Number 4, finally, there's evidence that youth with untreated ADHD are at an even greater risk of abusing drugs and alcohol. Substance use can significantly increase the risk of acting on suicidal thoughts through decreasing inhibition and fear the youth might have about attempting suicide.
So the stats we gave you of the 7 million kids that have ADHD, we don't know the numbers, obviously, for who's not been assessed or diagnosed. So, when you put the two together, it's a huge number. And I just want you to think about that for a minute, that even if kids that are assessed have these challenges, what about the kids that are not assessed? That's why we have to take the initiative to get our kids, if we believe there's something going on, take the initiative to get them assessed and diagnosed so we can deal with the ADHD part of this.
Right. So what are the warning signs? And before we go any further, the warning signs that we're going to be talking about, this is not a complete list. There are many other things that can be warning signs, but we do need to tell you that we never had any warning signs from Anthony. It was definitely his impulsiveness that caused him to die. And there's not always warning signs. I've talked to a few other parents who said that there was never a warning sign from their child.
And a lot of families told us, they said, if this can happen to the Bellezza family and Anthony, then what do we have to be thinking about for our children?
Right.
We put so much emphasis on as watching over our kids. But at some point, what we did is, and every parent does it, Anthony he was turned 18. We need to give him more responsibility, and we need to give him more freedom, because he was going to go away to college.
Yeah.
And so you start pulling back your reins a little bit, and good or bad, we pulled back the reins and we gave him some more mobility. And in the long run, that hurt him, because we didn't deal with the impulsiveness, and we didn't know how to deal with it. And the one thing that we've talked about in the past is that we didn't even know coaches really existed.
Right.
And today we do. Today they are the quarterback in our program. And so when you hear about us talk about these coaches, how important they are, they're critical to the process of helping a child and helping parents understand this impulsive nature that they have because of their ADHD. Right. And it's a big challenge. And parents, if you're a parent out there listening, you have it hard, and you have a child, it's hard. There's no easy solution. There's no easy answer. And we realize that, and that's why we're here to help you.
Right. But Anthony was in an emotional situation that he wasn't ready to deal with. He wasn't equipped to deal with it. So that is one thing. If your child is very emotional, please give it some attention, and don't just
bypass it. Don't let it go by.
Don't just say, well, they're just being emotional because they're a teenager.
You need to deal with it. You need to deal with it, and you need to ask questions, and not be afraid of asking questions of your children.
Right. Not every child diagnosed with ADHD struggles with depression or is at high risk for suicide. However, the increased risk of suicidal behaviors among those with ADHD warrants increased awareness, rapid recognition of key warning signs, and knowledge about how and where to get help. The following behaviors require immediate response. Talking or posting on social media about death or suicide. Increased sense of hopelessness, sadness, or feeling of being a burden on others. Talking about a plan to die, researching plans to die on the internet, and/or looking for items to kill oneself. Giving away prized possessions, visiting, calling, or texting others to say goodbye.
Yeah, I mean, parents always hesitate to go and look at what their child is writing, what emails they're writing, and what they're doing on social media. First off, we're going to have, you've already heard some of the discussion we've had with some other of our guests that basically say, take the screen time, take social media away, and the child will be better off in the long run. And so, you know, again, but if they do have access to social media, you should be looking at what they're doing with social media. You should follow them. You should look at what they're writing. The only way you're going to find that out is if you do put your nose into their business.
But they're very clever, and they find ways to
get around it,
to talk and to communicate without it being obvious to anybody else what they're doing.
That's right.
So that is a challenge too, is trying to outsmart our children. Anyway, what can parents do to increase safety and support? Help your child label their emotions and check in regularly with them about how they are feeling. Let them know all of their feelings are valid and that they have choice over how they express them. If changes in mood occur, consult with a primary care physician or mental health provider. Make sure all things that could be deemed unsafe are locked appropriately at all times and out of reach of children. Please, 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 if you have a gun in your house and you have a teenager or a child in your house, please have everything locked away.
And keep the ammunition separate from where the gun's at.
And do not let them know where the firearms are kept. If they don't know where they are, they can't get them. And it's not necessary for them to have them unless you're with them.
And we hear horror stories about this all the time. So I'm not saying anything that you don't know about. The point though is, if they have ADHD, they're at a greater risk.
Because they're impulsive.
Yes. And so parents, it's hard sometimes. We're busy, you're running all around. I was traveling most of the time, working long hours. You got to make time to sit down and have a conversation with your child and hear what they're feeling. Listen to what they're feeling. Observe them. There are going to be some signs. If you may not miss, they may be saying something to you that you may not. You're in a hurry, you might not hear. But again, if you can, take some time every day to check in with your child. That's what this message is here.
And when a youth with suicide is displaying warning signs, when a youth with ADHD is displaying warning signs of suicide, take it seriously and make sure a safety plan that is easily understandable to the child is in place, and consider being more watchful of children during any crisis.
Yeah, don't just overlook this point, because if they have warning signs and they have ADHD, you need to take it seriously, and you need to figure out what help you might need to get.
Also important, make sure you as a parent are taking care of yourself and building a support team. Raising a child with ADHD and managing a suicidal crisis is quite challenging. It can be a draining experience and requires a team of support. Use local and national crisis supports whenever needed. It is never a sign of weakness or limitation as a parent to use crisis resources.
Yeah, and it's important that you understand this. So we work with families all the time, and we hear this, and it's sad. Kids that have ADHD at 10, 11, 12, 13 years of age don't want to be here anymore, right? They're telling their parents that. It's time, you need to get help for that child, all right? That whether that's a therapist who's skilled in ADHD, and we realize that they're hard to find too, but that's so important. And the 988 number is it's so important that you have that. You know now that you have someone to reach out to. These are experts. They understand the situation, and they'll help you. And especially if there is a situation where you need that help.
So if you or your child need immediate help due to having suicidal thoughts, call or text the 988 Suicide and Crisis Lifeline at 988. If there is an immediate safety concern, please call 911 or go to the nearest emergency room for immediate assistance.
So we've touched on this article, and we think it shares a lot of good points and things to be aware of. Again, we're not experts in this space, but there are things that everyone should be alert to suicide risks, especially today when it's being talked about. There are some students in high school that are talking about this all the time, and you have to be alert to it, especially when the stats are so staggering. The last thing that you want to have happen is to lose a child to this. And there are things so I want to just step back for a minute and talk about some of the other things that you can do. So, which is like, focus on helping your child if they're in this mood where, they don't want to move. They just want to go and get on the screens, or they just don't want to do anything. Get them up and get them moving, because I'll tell you, part of the whole process, if you get them moving and get them even a little bit of exercise, take a walk. Parents, take a walk with your child. Take them by the hand, go out, take a walk with them, and just get them out of the house. And because exercise has such an important, and walking is part of that, has such an important point on dopamine, because when you have ADHD, your dopamine levels drop, and that was a big part. Like Anthony and I, we used to exercise all the time. We used to exercise 3-4 times a night. Now, it may not say that, and I can still remember that they don't want to do that. Anthony used to say, "Dad, I got to get up on Saturday and go to martial arts." And I'd say, "Get your butt out of bed, and we're going to go." Now, once he got there, he was great, but getting him there was a bit of a challenge. But you still need to push your child to do that, and exercise is so important. The other thing is focus on their strengths. I'm a big journal person. I like to write things down. I like to keep, my thoughts in a journal. Get a strengths journal for your child, and you and your son or daughter write some positive things down. What are the strengths they have? Focus on the positives here, and that's what our whole mission is about. Focus on the positives. Draw out the positives, find the passions for what they want to do, and help them to get into those passions. For us, Anthony loved cars and motorcycles. That was his passion. So we refurbished a 1989 BMW in his senior year. He came to me and asked me. So if I would have said no to him, that would have been a destruction for him right off the bat. But I couldn't say no. It was a point of helping him because he asked me to refurbish this car, and he loved cars. So take time to help and be with your children, and focus on their strengths and what's positive. Now, there are a lot of other organizations out there that you can reach out to. Obviously suicide prevention, if there are issues. There are groups out there, groups for parents, groups to help you understand this. CHAD, children and adults with ADHD. They have parent-to-parent training programs. They have CHADs across the whole country in each state. Most states have some kind of CHAD organization. It's important to get connected in. Parents, it's important that you go and get connected with other parents. If you do have an issue and you do lose a child, then there are a whole bunch of resources. Now, we could have said, and we did for a little bit, we said we weren't going to do anything. It was really tough, and that was the hardest thing we had to do. But we knew we needed to get help, and we got help through a therapist, a psychiatrist who helped us to deal with the situation, helped us to
stay married,
and helped us to deal with our kids, because our kids were dealing with 3 wonderful daughters.
Right.
They were all dealing with it in their own way, and we needed to help them. And if we couldn't help ourselves, we couldn't help our 3 girls. So we share this from the heart with you. This is a serious topic. The part of this month, we're going to bring to you a PhD that talks about suicide prevention, how if they do get put in a hospital, how they deal with it there, and how they make sure they protect them. We're going to talk about some laws that are have passed through the House and are in the Senate now to help training our teachers, and those are so important. We've got to move on these things. We've got to move on helping to get more insight into everybody.
the situation's not getting better.
No, it's not. It's not. And if we don't deal with it today, then we're going to step back 5 years and we're going to see the same situation even worse. And again, when we get calls that a mom saved her daughter from an overdose, what do? Well, we guide her to some therapists, we guide her to a coach, we guide them to someone who can help them, and we offer our support and our help. You know, we're here to listen. We built this together because we're here for you, and that's what we offer. We offer the guidance, we offer the right experts. We've got some very talented people in our organization that are here for you.
And at the very least, we totally know what you're going through.
We do. We understand, and I can tell you that we've cried with many parents who have called us. So this is important. Take it to heart. Deal with them. Deal with the situation, and don't say this can't happen to me. That's the worst thing you could do, is to say this will never happen to my child. My child's ADHD. He's very active in, he or she's very active in sports. Never happen. I tell you, when you least expect it, and we never wish this on anybody, but you gotta be alert to it. You gotta understand the statistics. We didn't understand these statistics until we started digging in, and then when it hit us like a rock, and we wish we would have known years ago what we know today. And that's what we're here to share. So we're gonna close out today. Casey's gonna give you some things to think about, but we're gonna ask you to do this. Okay, go and hug your child. Tell them you love them. Tell them how much they mean to you as a mom and a dad. All right, that is so important. Casey, please share the ending.
As we close today's conversation, we want to remind every parent, caregiver, and educator listening, children with ADHD are bright, creative, and full of potential, but they also face challenges that can sometimes feel overwhelming. Too often, these struggles can place them at higher risk for depression and even thoughts of suicide. Talking openly, listening without judgment, and reaching out for support can make all the difference. If you are worried about your child, know that you are not alone. There are resources, professionals, and communities ready to walk with you. During Suicide Prevention Month, let's commit to kindness, connection, and awareness. Every child deserves to feel seen, valued, and loved for exactly who they are. Together, we can build a world where children with ADHD not only survive, but truly thrive. If you or someone you love is struggling, please call or text 988, the Suicide and Crisis Lifeline, for immediate help. Hope and help are always within reach.
Yeah, they are. So, as we normally end these podcasts, we're going to just flip our statement here. We're going to tell you that it's important to let your child know that life is better with them. Life is better with you. Share that. Tell your child that today is the best day of your life and tomorrow will be even better. You know, we hope that you post that, and we hope millions of people post that on everything, a refrigerator, on your mirrors, and tell your child that every day. Today is the best day of your life and tomorrow will be even better. It helps. So we wish you the best, and we're here. You're not alone. Have a great day.
Take care.
Take care.